Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite anti-heroes in science fiction and fantasy. And this is a topic for this year's Booktube SFF Awards Book Babbles. So for the Booktube SFF Awards, which I've talked about before, I'll link my video about it on the screen. So during every award season, we do discussion videos or posts or whatever everyone's platform is about certain topics related to science fiction and fantasy. So I will link the Goodreads group down below where all the topics are listed. Anyone can participate. So if you want to talk about more SFF related things, go and check those topics out. So like I said, this week we're talking about our favorite anti-heroes in science fiction and fantasy. I am sticking only to books because if I included TV and video games and movies, this would be a very long list and we don't have time. But if you guys really want me to talk about those other things, I can do a video about that on my other channel. So comment down below and let me know if that's something that you do want to see. So I sort of ranked these not by how much I love them or like my favorites or anything, but kind of by level of anti-hero-ness. So the lower level to the highest level anti-heroes, in my opinion, based on some of their antics and behaviors. So the first character I want to talk about is Kelsier from Mistborn, and he's towards the bottom because he's an anti-hero in the way that he like isn't your traditional hero archetype, but he does do a lot of heroic things, but he just does them in different ways, and that he puts this band of like basically thieves together and he just goes about it differently. But I still think that overall he's a very good character. It's just in this world he seems like such an anti-hero and this more like, you know, rugged, rough around the edges type character, but the most pure probably of this list, honestly. I love him. Then we have Ronan from the Raven Boys of Maggie Stiefvater, and he's a character that I almost like didn't add to this list, but his demeanor is so anti-hero-like. Like he's just very rough around the edges, crabby sometimes. He can just be like an ass, but he loves his friends so much and he has like this very pure heart, and that's why again he's towards the bottom of this list. But he definitely has this like exterior that is very like anti-hero, wanting to just fight, wanting to talk with his fists, being really angry for good reason, and sometimes doing things that are like selfish or lazy or aggressive, but ultimately like being a really good pure person. So he had to go on this list, although I'm like, he's such a sweet bean, but like the world doesn't know he's a sweet bean, you know? Then we have Sabha from Blood Red Road by Moira Young. I haven't talked about this book in so long, and I haven't read this book in so long, but I love it. And Sabha is one of my favorite anti-heroes because she is this rough around the edges, just survivor. She's in this post-apocalyptic kind of Western world, and she doesn't want to be a hero. Like, she's not the chosen one, she's not any of that kind of thing. She's just off to save her sibling who's been taken, and that is that. And she has a lot of rough language, and she's a fighter. At one point she gets in like a cage fight and there's like a crow that's like her companion. I mean, she is like the embodiment of anti-hero. I love her, but she ultimately is like a pretty good person, honestly, I feel. But like this world, basically all these characters are pretty much anti-heroes, and she's just such a badass. I am forgetting a lot of things about this. She should, honestly, now that I'm talking about it, be probably higher up in this list because she's very anti-hero. But I need to reread this again because it was so good. Then we have Kestrel from the Winter's Curse trilogy, and she is the character who is just cunning, super smart, but also can be like selfish in a way. But I mean, she changes her tune to where she's not being selfish, but she can be selfish in a way, and she can be rash, and she can hurt people. Like, she can hurt their feelings, she can lie, she can manipulate, and so she's not this like classic hero, but she is doing things for generally like the right reason, but she can sometimes go about them in ways that can be like very hurtful to people. So that's kind of where she's more of this like anti-hero, using her words, using manipulation as like her tool, which I just love her. She's so cool. Then we have Warner from the Shatter Me series by Hatada Mafi, and this is a character that kind of started out as a villain and where we didn't really know much about him, blah blah, and he turned more into this like anti-hero character. He generally, this is where we're getting into the like more like bad characters. Like, he does a lot of things for good reasons, but also is he only really cares about the people that he cares about, and like that's it. And he can be very cold and very detached and do things that shouldn't be done and that you shouldn't go about it that way, but it's also kind of the nature of the world and the circumstances that they are put in this world and stuff like that. But ultimately, like, he does bad stuff sometimes. but usually for the right reason. And I sort of love the fact that he is like this cold character who only really attaches to some people. Like, that is something that I really like about him. And he learns, he grows, that he's still not like ever gonna be like your classic hero. Speaking of learning and growing and not quite being your classic hero, we have Magnus from the Fallen Kingdom series by Morgan Rhodes. He is, again, very similar to Warner. They kind of go hand in hand, where he started out being more of like a villain type character. He was raised by a villain character, and he can be cruel and mean and manipulative and aggressive, and he still has some of those traits and still some of those like selfish traits that go throughout the series, but he definitely does grow throughout the series and turns into more of a hero. Again, he's not going to ever be this like classic hero character, but he goes from being somebody who like a lot of people really hated and couldn't stand to being a character that a lot of people really love. So I really appreciate him. That kind of arc is something that I really like, this kind of like redemption arc. I really like it. It's my thing. I eat it up. Then we have Aedwin from Truth Witch by Susan Dennard, and Aedwin is a blood witch, and so his power is sort of considered like evil and bad in this world, but right now he's kind of doing some things where he's kind of like almost like this mercenary for hire, and is not doing the best things. We don't even really know quite his reasoning for everything that he does, and he seems kind of bad. He seems like, especially in the first book, he seems like more of a villain. You learn throughout the first book that he's not quite a villain, but I really enjoy him, and I'm highly looking forward to his arc. The next book in the series is actually Blood Witch, which is going to be more focused on him, and I cannot wait. Then we have Asun as well as Alabaster from the 5th season, or the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and basically all the characters in this series are anti-heroes. None of them follow the classic hero archetype. All of them are put in a world that is impossible and post-apocalyptic and horrible, and they all do bad things, usually again for good reasons, sometimes not for good reasons. Some of them are like destroying the world. Like, it's just, they are all incredibly flawed and complex, and I loved that about them. Both of them, I think, are the most like anti-hero of the bunch, and they are like a lot of the main focus anyway. And I just enjoy that even as the series went on, like, they were called out about that. Like, they are, it's like, you guys are selfish, you only think about yourselves, like, and that's just the nature of that, and they do, especially Asun, like, grow from that, and that's a huge part of her arc. But overall, she's like a good person, but she has to do some like horrible things in this world and in the situation she's been put in, and I appreciate that. Then we have a classic, and that is Locke from the Lives of Locke Lamora. Now again, Locke I feel like is generally a good person, but he does things for selfish reasons. He's a thief. He loves his people and his group, but he's not in it to be a hero. I think as the series is going on, I've only read the first 2 books, that he might get pulled into things that make him like sort of need to be a hero at times, but he's not going through his life trying to be a hero. He's trying to get real rich, and that's all that really matters to him. But at the same time, he's a thief. He's not like a killer, you know, like he isn't an assassin or anything. Like, he's just trying to live his life and make some money and not really kill people. That it happens sometimes because he gets in fights and stuff, but like, overall, decent person. Then we have Shizuka and Shafali from The Tiger's Daughter. These are the 2 warrior women that are the main characters in here, and both of them, especially Shizuka, are anti-heroes and again selfish, like Shizuka in general, because even though she wants to be this warrior and she wants to like defeat the evil and all this stuff, she wants to do it for selfish reasons because she believes herself to be like a god almost, and like she believes that her and Shafali are like gods, and so she's doing things not really for like the people, but because she feels so highly about herself. So I love them both, and even Shafali, as the story continues, almost takes on a lot of these physical traits of like an anti-hero, which I won't get into, but is part of it. So I really enjoy both of them, as like this whole story just speaks to me in general, because you have 2 lady characters who are warriors in love, who are anti-heroes and selfish and incredibly flawed and complex. I adore them. Then we have Kaz from 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Kaz is a character much like Locke, but I would say even worse than Locke in this regard, where like he doesn't really care about anyone besides himself, although he starts to like care about his friends, and that scares him because it's kind of, he feels like at a point like some of his like downfall, but he cares about very few people. If anyone gets in his way, he will destroy them. And he's, again, not looking to save the world, not looking to do any of that. He's just looking to make sure that anybody in his way goes down, and to get rich, and to just like be comfortable. So he is kind of your classic anti-hero. And again, like, his nickname is Dirty Hands. Like, he's just so badass and is not afraid to do like anything. Like, he will do anything to get what he wants and what he needs and to protect the people that he does love, which is a very, very short list. So I highly appreciate him, and he's some of the highest of anti-hero on the list. And then we have Jack and Paladin from Autonomous. I recently read this book, and what I liked about this book is almost everybody in this book is an anti-hero. Like, they're all not super good people, they're all very flawed, and all of the main characters are doing bad things. They all kill people, they all are doing like criminal activity of some variety. And again, some of it is for good reasons, some of it is self-defense, some of it is whatever, but and they all feel like they're doing the right thing, but they're all doing like pretty bad things. And it was really interesting to have this book about this, and with these characters that are so flawed and are doing these horrible things, sometimes to each other, and kind of pulling for all of them. It was a really interesting dynamic. And Jack is a human and Paladin is a military bot. So even the fact that we have a, you know, AI as a anti-hero just speaks to how good of a character they are. And on that AI note, at the very top of my list is Aiden from Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Aiden is a villain. He is a rogue AI. He kills lots of people. He does horrible things, but then he also gets like brought into the fold as sort of a hero, sort of doing good things. We don't really know the motivations for the good things. Like, he has the highest death count of like any of the characters on this list, and I feel like the willingness to kill is kind of a good ranking for anti-heroes. It's one that's pretty easy. So yeah, I mean, he's one of those like, I mean, am I not merciful? He's a villain and now kind of an anti-hero. So interesting. Very excited to see how this series does wrap up, because as I'm filming this video, the last book in the series hasn't come out yet, but very soon, and kind of to see like, will he lean all the way over to hero? Will he remain an anti-hero? Interesting. I think it's really cool that a couple of the top characters on this list were AIs. So that is it for some of my favorite anti-heroes in science fiction and fantasy. Comment below and let me know some of yours. I love anti-heroes. I need more of them. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.